Arcadian Vanguard presents the Wrestling News in your daily wrestling newscast for Thursday, April 13th, 2023. Good morning. I'm Mike Sempervive. We begin today with last night's AEW Dynamite broadcast live on TBS from the UWM Panther Arena in Milwaukee. The main event saw Chris Jericho pin Keith Lee after Lee was attacked by a masked assailant, later revealed to be Swerve Strickland.
The attention of the officials. What? Who was that? Is that Swerve? I think that might have been Strickland. He had a mask on, but it looked like a jacket. Yeah, that Swerve was wearing earlier, and Swerve promised to settle some old scores. I mean, Swerve and Keith Lee, they were former AEW World Tag Team Champions, but
well, the referee can't, because she didn't see it. I mean,
2 and 3. Wow.
Here is your winner, the Ocho, Chris Jericho. We got that shot. I think it's very apparent that was Swerve.
Jericho, Strickland, and Daniel Garcia jumped Lee after the match, but Adam Cole came out to make the save. Strickland had previously lost the opening match to Darby Allin. Jeff Hardy made his return to AEW during the show, coming to the aid of his brother Matt, as well as Hook and Isaiah Cassidy of Private Party, who were being attacked by the Firm.
Yeah, Matt Hardy, Isaiah Cassidy, they got rocked from behind them. I got goosebumps! Jeff Hardy! Jeff Hardy has returned! Oh, man! Taking no prisoners!
Jeff hadn't been seen in AEW since being suspended last June after a DUI arrest. The Young Bucks also returned to TV, joining Kenny Omega in a surprise attack on the Blackpool Combat Club following the BCC's victory over Elite Associates Brandon Cutler and Michael Nakazawa. In title matches, Orange Cassidy successfully defended the International Championship against Buddy Matthews, and Powerhouse Hobbs scored a quick win over Silas Young to retain the TNT Championship. In a post-match angle following Hobbs' win, Wardlow destroyed a car that had been gifted to Hobbs by QT Marshall. In other results, AEW World Champion MJF confronted Darby Allin and Sting, and Tony Storm and Ruby Soho defeated Riho and Sky Blue. Storm, Soho, and Saraya jumped Riho and Blue after the match, which brought out AEW World Champion Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker for a pull-apart brawl. In more All Elite Wrestling news, CM Punk has been expressing interest in returning to active status in AEW, according to a new report from Fightful Select. Punk has reportedly made repeated communications to the company pitching possible ideas for his return, and these include potentially working with Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks of the Elite. There has been no word if the Elite would be interested in participating in such a scenario. There has been no word on if the Elite would be interested in participating in such a scenario. Backstage conflict with Punk and the Elite, culminating in Punk's explosive post-show press conference and the locker room brawl at last September's All Out, are what drove Punk off AEW television in the first place, although he remains under contract. On his podcast, Dax Harwood recently spoke about the idea of having Punk and FTR against the Elite headline AEW's All In at Wembley Stadium next August, but it was not made clear if there have been any talk of putting such a match together. In ratings news, NXT drew its smallest audience on the USA Network in the show's history, with 528,000 viewers tuning in, according to Showbuzz Daily. That's down nearly 5% from last week's audience of 555,000. The rating in the key 18 to 49-year-old demographic was .13, holding steady with last week's key demo rating, according to WrestleNomics. That number represents 170,000 viewers. In news from Japan, New Japan Pro Wrestling, All Japan Pro Wrestling, and Pro Wrestling Noah are planning to join forces for the co-promoted show All Together Again, as was announced yesterday at a joint press conference. The event is scheduled to take place Friday, June 9th at Sumo Hall in Tokyo, and will reportedly air live on the New Japan World streaming platform. Present at the press conference were Hiroshi Tanahashi representing New Japan, Kento Miyahara representing All Japan, and Kaito Kiyomiya representing Noah. More details on the show are expected in the coming weeks, altogether was originally presented as a series of co-promoted events in 2011 and 2012. And before we leave you today, we'd like to remind you that however you consume your content, you can find the wrestling news 24 hours a day and 7 days a week across social media. On Twitter, follow us at Wrestling News AV. Our Facebook page is also Wrestling News AV. The Wrestling News can also be found on the Arcadian Vanguard YouTube page. And for those who utilize Amazon Echo devices, just tell Alexa to play the Wrestling News podcast. And remember to make sure you add podcast at the end. Once again, for daily updates, breaking news, and more, follow the Wrestling News across social media. And that's the news for today. If anything happens, we will be here to tell you about it. No clickbait, no paywall, just the Wrestling News. The Wrestling News is a division of Arcadian Vanguard, and the Wrestling Newscast is a production of the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network.